Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Vixen Voice. So, I am excited for many reasons today. One, my amazing guest, Dr. Diana Singleton, and we'll get to chat with her soon. Hi, Diana, how are you?
Hi, good. I'm great.
Awesome. And second, if you're watching us on YouTube, you're going to see it. I am in this beautiful location in Sedona, Arizona, because as soon as we wrap this episode, all of my Vixens are showing up for our second quarter mastermind. So today is a fun day for me. As you'll know, I absolutely love talking to my amazing guest on the Vixen Voice, and I love having my mastermind. So anyway, Diane, I'm so happy you could join me. We're going to have fun, and I can't wait to dig in. So, Dr. Diana Singleton is a doctor of physical therapy, a woman's pelvic floor expert, and a fitness coach for moms. Yes, you heard that right. A pelvic floor expert. So I told you we're going to have fun today. Awesome. So, Diana, welcome. Again, what I love about Diana, first of all, this is fun. We met in a mastermind or a master class that we're in together, right? So it's how to run an engaging Facebook community, and my good friend Lindsay Weiss puts that on, and you've seen Lindsay here on the Vixen Voice or you've heard her. And so Diana and I were in that class together, and I just loved her energy, and I was like, hey, can we connect and become friends? So, I love sharing these stories because so many people think it's hard to make friends as an adult, but Diana, how do you feel about that? I feel it's easier because I know what I'm attracted to. Does that
You
make
know,
sense?
it's interesting that you say that. I was just having a conversation with someone about this, and you do like, I don't know, especially if like you're a female and you're just like
Yeah.
evolving over time, and your friends that you met, either back in college or from high school, don't always evolve with you in the same way that, you are, and it can change, and it can be difficult though, right, to
Yeah.
meet other adults. But I do find in my career endeavors and everything, and through networking events, things like that, like it does give you the opportunity to meet so many interesting people. And I was reflecting on the number of people I've met over this past year
I
in
know.
different, groups and things like that.
Yeah.
And, having more alignment with, what you're interested in and the direction you're going in.
No, I agree. It's so funny. I was visiting my parents and I was driving my mom somewhere, and then, we were at a light or something. And I'm not someone to always be on my phone, but like I had a bunch of text and I was like voice texting, and my mom's like, who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to? And I was like, oh, my friend, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, who are all these people? And I'm like, it's like all my new friends since I started the Vixen Gathering. And like, it's just kind of funny because I think we're kind of all in the same boat where we're growing businesses. We're at a certain time in our life where we have a lot of balls in the air. And I just think it's so nice to have that connection with, women that we're all different, but we're kind of going through the same stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Everybody's
All
got a
right.
journey.
Yeah, totally. And I'm fascinated by everyone's journey, so I like to hear it. So, speaking of, let's dig into your journey right now. So, I'm going to ask kind of, is there maybe a pivotal story in your life that you think most contributed to like this amazing woman that I see here before me right now? What do you think a story or two that really shaped who you are?
Yeah, so I always think back to the year I had my son Jack. And,
Mm,
it was such a pivotal time because the person that I am today was so significantly different, I feel, than who I was before
yeah.
I had him. And, in working with a lot of moms, a lot does change, obviously, with motherhood. But I think what was unique for me around that time was I went through a few different experiences that you don't expect all the things to happen, at one time. But for me, it was my postpartum and pregnancy year, that I was going
Yeah.
through a lot. And I went through quite a bit of loss, actually. It started with the loss of my mother in law at the time when I was married to my son's father. And it was just totally unexpected. And she was just like a very vibrant, wonderful woman. And, in this our awful accident, and it was during my pregnancy that happened. And
Wow.
that, that one shook me because that was my first like eye opener. Like, you could be totally healthy and living your best life and, being in the greatest place. And then the next day is not guaranteed. And so that was an eye opener for me where I was like, I'm going to enjoy each day. I'm going to be grateful each day. And then, the joy of my son,
Yeah.
when he arrived, that was just like a wonderful time, one of the best days of my life. And becoming a mom had its challenges, but it was also like just the most unbelievable experience that I could have imagined. Followed up again by another loss. My dad passed away when my son was only 5 months old, and that was
Wow.
unexpected as well. We were having a winter here up in New England, and he was shoveling snow when he had his heart attack. But, that for me was more of an eye opener for, okay, Diana, you're a busy mom, you're working a lot, you've got a lot of stress going on in your life. I looked at some of the things my dad was dealing with too, and that made me really focus in on my health a lot more at
Mm-hmm.
that time. And I started to take a lot better care of myself. And I made some changes in my career, including leaving the busy orthopedic practice that I was working
Yeah.
in. Loved orthopedics, but it was just not for me anymore because there was that pull. I started to have a pull, and I started to listen more to the intuition of, you want to learn something else. There's something more to this career for you. And that's when I got into pelvic floor physical therapy. And, in taking better care of myself, I learned in becoming a pelvic floor physical therapist some of my own pelvic floor issues that I had postpartum that I hadn't even realized. And
Wow.
so that was a bit of a turning point. And then, shortly after that, another big change in my life. I went through a divorce unexpectedly. And again, it was one of those things where, it was terrible at the time, but in reflecting on it, like, some really hard changes that happened over the course of that year really molded me into becoming a more confident and self-assured and knowing what I want out of life
Mm-hmm.
and in my career. So that was, I'd say that was kind of my pivotal moment.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot. What a roller coaster time. I mean, and thank you, for being open and vulnerable about that. I feel our generation's a little bit different, like, or women as, we're juggling things, but there's such a highlight reel on social media, right? Like, there's that trend now that's like, hey, it looks great on social media, but here's all my fears. And I just don't think we women do a service to each other when we make everything look like it's perfect all the time, right? Like,
No.
you and I were joking, like, I mean, I literally have my computer on a toaster oven right now because I'm in an Airbnb. Like, it looks gorgeous behind, but it was like a hot mess this morning, right? And I also think life is more interesting when we talk about the challenges. I mean, if everything was perfect all the time, it'd be boring. And I loved what you said. And first of all, I'm so sorry for all your losses and for your divorce. I'm divorced as well. And although now I'm happy, that is one of, I think, the most difficult things you can go through. But for me too, I feel like I would not be doing what I'm doing today had I not gone through my divorce, right? So it's these moments that really shape us and put us in a trajectory. But I'm curious, like, from all of that time, I know you said making different life decisions. So obviously it propelled you forward positively when you got past like the loss and the grief and everything. But were there maybe any toxic habits you took forward that you had to unlearn? So for me, when I got divorced, even though my ex-husband had addiction problems and, we battled them, I felt like I failed at the most important thing, marriage. And so I was like, I'm not going to fail at anything else, which was like amazing for my retirement planning clients because they had this like financial planner that would work 24/7 for them, but was not like the healthiest for me and myself, right? So I had to like unlearn that behavior of, okay, it's okay if you fail and you're not perfect and things aren't great, right? So, is there some behavior like that that you've had to unlearn to like maybe live a more balanced or better life?
Oh, yes. And it's so interesting too, because it's like you look at challenges you've been through and it's like, okay, like I went through that. So now this and that will get easier. And it's like, no, you just become more self-aware of the areas that you need to grow and step it up in. And I was abundantly aware of that after all of these things happened. And moving forward, one of the initial things that happened, so of course I'm like, quote unquote, trying to get healthier. And that turned into very restrictive eating. It turned into very, um, you know, almost obsessive with an anxiety over my health and a control that, was unrealistic and actually making me a lot more stressed. And it took some years of, you know, going on strict diets. I went vegan for a bit. I eliminated so many food groups and then eventually being able to eat normally again and put a new perspective on exercise as well. Because
Yeah.
I'd been an athlete for years. I ran track through college and everything. And, as a mom who was running a business and all of that, it was like one thing to properly um, eat and have nutrient
Yeah.
dense meals and also be able to reframe what exercise actually is, that it doesn't mean I need to go for an 8 mile run or a 45-minute hit workout. It could look like go for a 20-minute walk, or maybe today, Diana, you don't do anything, or maybe just stretch.
Yeah.
So
Well, thanks for sharing that. And I can relate because, most of my life I was very thin, like ate very clean, like I was, in good shape. And then when I got divorced, I gained a lot of weight and had to reverse that. And then now in the last year, like the roller coaster I've been on, like new city, new business, etc., I put on weight again. And I think I'm perimenopausal. There's lots of things going on. But now, I love that you have your program Fit as a mother, and I want to talk about that. I'm assuming you help with nutrition there, but I think after having a child or when you're going into menopause, these different parts of our lives, like we women do get confused because, like I've been gluten and dairy free since 2013. I don't like chicken because I don't like how it's processed. And then in my spiritual practice, my teacher asked us to cut out pork, shrimp, and catfish. And I'm like, I don't have much left. So it's so funny. Like, I have not eaten chicken probably for 20 years. And suddenly I'm eating chicken again because I'm like, I got to eat something. And so, I'm sure you probably see this a lot, right? Life changes and we've been on so many diets and we've cut so many things out and we've tried so many things that, I don't know, we become completely confused about what's best for us and our body. And I also know that changes because what worked for me 10 years ago, I could take weight off like that, does not work for me now. And I don't buy into this, oh, you're getting older, you're just going to weigh more. I think that's a limiting belief. And my mom and I argue about this all the time. So, what do what advice do you give your clients, or if anyone's listening and they're in this place, how can we get ourselves out of this wilderness of confusion?
yes, and I'm so happy you brought that up because it is so confusing and
Yeah.
there's so limited advice out there, especially women going through
Yes.
perimenopause. And it's always one of those dreaded topics in phases of life for so many women. But, I always like to explain to women how, starting at age 35 is when technically we can start going through perimenopause. And there's a
That's
lot that
crazy.
starts. I know, right?
And because
Like,
nobody knows, right?
yep. You think of it as something like, okay, menopause is at what, like 51 or so, but we don't think about the changes that are already starting to happen in our bodies starting at age 35. And I mean, even something simply as our muscle mass, the significant changes to that start at age 35, where we lose about 2% of that every single year. And it sounds, again, like dreadful, whatever, but it doesn't have to be. It's actually like really exciting because we can always build muscle and we always have the ability to, work against these changes so that it's not just like one day you're, full of estrogen and strong and, able to have a good metabolism to not. There's a lot in between that can be done. And I talk again a lot about estrogen. I talk a lot about muscle mass because that is
Awesome.
part of why it can feel so difficult going into the perimenopausal years of like, why do I feel bloated? Why am I gaining weight? The same things aren't working that, did a few years ago. And that all has to do a lot with muscle mass because the less muscles are on our body, the more, fat tissue that we have in our body. But if we are building muscle mass, then that is what's going to increase our resting metabolic rate. So you're burning more calories at rest than if you weren't, building muscle and strength training. So, anyways, a lot of the time we get caught up in, well, what exercise now should I do? What kind of foods should I be eating?
Yes.
And so, in order to build, so the farther away we get from age 35, the closer we're getting to menopause and the more muscle mass we're losing each year. And so we also have to consider diet with that because if we are, say, we're doing exercises to help promote muscle growth, which is again going to help our resting metabolism,
Hmm.
we also need to be fueling our body with enough of the right nutrients, which, includes the carbohydrates, the fats, and the protein. And protein is a tough one because in order to actually build muscle mass, the amount of protein one would need is quite a bit. And that's where I find women get stuck. They're like, how do I eat protein and how much and all of that. But finding ways to increase dietary protein is huge for building muscle mass and
Yeah.
also being able to not restrict the carbs because then that's the other thing like some women will be like, well, I'm just not going to eat carbs then, and that's really bad too because then that affects like your brain health and also your body's muscle building capacity. Like you really need all of the right nutrients. But as estrogen declines starting at about age 35 too,
Yeah.
estrogen is a muscle building hormone. So as we have less and less estrogen in our body, it does also get a little bit harder to maintain the bone density and have the muscle on us. And, the estrogen has properties in it that allow muscles to contract and relax and, have that pliability and be supple and, the collagen component, all of that. So we talk about ways to work against what our body's trying to do, which is lose estrogen as we get older. And through diet and exercise there's a lot that can be done.
I just want to thank you because I've had so many trainers in the last 10 years. Like I've tried, I think like 5 years ago I did Whole 30 for a period of time and I loved Whole 30, by the way. Like I was living my best life on Whole 30. Like it just did. And I just did the keto diet and I was talking to a friend of mine, and she actually, Lexi, she's my COO, and she was a college athlete. So she's like, I hate super restrictive diets. I was like, I get it, but the reason I like them for a short period of time is I'm testing my body to see how it reacts. So, like, I've done keto for the last month, and I have been hitting those protein numbers and like keeping carbs down. And then the other day, I had a couple of carbs. The next morning, I felt like I had drank a bottle of wine. Like, it's so crazy what it did to my body because I had a couple of carbs. And then, same thing, yesterday, I had a little bit of sugar. And this morning, I woke up with a headache, and I never get headaches. So, like, I don't know that's the healthiest way to do it, but I personally like to test my body, like restrict and then put things back and see how my body reacts. But I mean, to be honest, I'm a single female with no kids at home, so I'm sure that becomes really challenging when you're having to feed multiple people, balance all these different things. So, like, what I'm doing, is it even healthy? Am I doing bad things to my body by testing it? Or, like, if you were talking to me, I love being the guinea pig on this. I'll be the one to squirm. Like, would you, like, slap me on the hand and be like, April, quit doing that?
No, not necessarily. Well, I think also too we have our idea of what a carb is, right? So when you're saying
Yeah.
carbs, like if you're comfortable, what carb did you have?
Complex carbs. So yesterday I had some chips and guacamole. So that was my carb that I had. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think sometimes people forget that vegetables are carbs. So
Agreed. And
that would
that's
be
how I've
considered,
been
yeah.
getting carbs. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we need balance. You don't want to restrict anything.
Agree.
Um, and so I think reframing sometimes like I can't have carbs is like, no, you actually can have carbs because you're supposed to have your vegetables and that's carbs as is
Yeah.
fruit too. And you need the healthy balance of the fat as well. Like they all
True.
metabolize together, which of course a dietitian is gonna like comment on this so much better. But I would say also it needs to be sustainable. And that's where people fall off all the
Mm-hmm.
time with the diets because if it's not designed to sustain you for life, then it's not a good long term solution, right? It's going to be a quick
Agreed.
fix, and then you're going to end up, trying to live your life and, have a chip
Yep.
and, not tolerate it. But that is where, the moderation piece does come in. I think for the most part, if you're getting the nutrient dense foods in, you got your protein, fat, your carbs, and then, have a little fun sometimes, you
Yep.
know, drink your water but the exercise is a huge component too because that also helps. And of course supplements can make a difference as well, although I don't heavily promote that because I
Mm-hmm.
really recommend trying to get most of your nutrients from a whole foods diet. But
I agree.
uh,
Yeah. I always test every couple of months. I like kind of like feel out the supplements I'm taking and if I need them, like I try to watch because I try to like whittle it down to really what's needed because in today's world, every other commercial there's something or you're scrolling Instagram and there's 10 must-have supplements that are out
oh my
there and
goodness.
like that's why I just think like what you do is so important, and I do want to dig into your like 8 week signature program, Fit as a Mother, because there's so much noise out there. And a mastermind that I'm in the other day, he was talking about being like preeminent in your field, and I think that's a lost commodity, and that's kind of what we did when I was in the financial world. Because, I'm a business consultant. How many business consultants are there out there that people can hire, right? But do most of them have 16 years of experience and actually grew a multiple 7 figure business and sold it, right? But it's not just that. It's also, I weave God, my intuition, all these different things into my coaching. And so same with like what you do, you're very specialized in what you do. And I feel more than ever like experts are needed because there's so much information out there that it's confusing. So first of all, tell us how, if people are interested in your Fit as a Mother, tell us what it is, and then like how people can find you and like who you think you help the most.
Yeah, so this past year, I embarked on creating a program because, of course, as a pelvic floor physical therapist, I work one on one with women, and a lot of them being moms. And having been a mom myself, a single mom, a busy mom, business owner mom, I've seen the struggle of trying to take care of yourself, address pelvic floor issues, get exercise in, try to eat balanced meals, take care of everyone. And I work with a lot of women going through similar. So, of course,
Yeah.
I'm at a point where I've been able to have a consistent workout routine. I know what I need to eat. I know how to take care, of the physical injuries and things like that come up. But it was definitely a process for me that I had to learn. And so I really felt it on my heart over the past 2 years that I really wanted to be offering women more. I had so much more to give, especially with my
Yeah.
background in personal training. And I see so many women struggling. So I um, created Fit as a Mother this past year. It's my 8 week virtual group coaching program to help moms go from feeling frustrated with their lack of a workout routine and dealing with pelvic floor issues to having a consistent workout routine that they love and feels great, and to be able to chase after their kids leakage free. And I've just finished my second cohort of moms about a month ago, and the feedback I am getting is just, it's been the hugest gift because it was like a labor of love, that I put into creating this program over the past year. And, the thoughts in your head are always like, is this actually going to help anyone? And the fact that I'm seeing how many women it's been helping, and them being able to carry their kids on hikes and, not have back pain and being able to run leak free and have better eating habits and just feeling like happier people and less stressed and enjoying life with their families has been really rewarding to me. I do a lot of posting. You can find me on Instagram at the Diana Singleton. And I also have my pelvic floor physical therapy practice at Reclaim Your Strength Physical Therapy. My website is currently going through construction, a lot of updates there, but those are two places you could definitely find me.
Yeah, and we will have, by the way, if you go to the show notes of this episode, you can find all of Diana's information. I highly recommend you follow her. As I said, we met like in the last month, and I was kind of scrolling back in her feed, and I saw the transformation you made in your body. I mean, you were always gorgeous, but like you were so fit now, and like I saw that transformation. So she has walked the walk and done the work, and what's amazing about you is like Diana saw a whole day worth of patients before hopping on this podcast with me. So she's very much still a practitioner, like helping women one on one and doing this program. So, I mean, that just tells me like your passion because, plus, I mean, Jack's how old now?
7.
Yeah. Plus, you have a hyper 7-year old. So, I mean, and you were
And
recently
puppy.
married, right? Yes. And puppy.
I got married in 2022, and I have a stepdaughter who is just going to be graduating college actually this May. And so, yep, we've got a full house.
I love it. You have a real life.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love it. Yeah, no. So let's talk more about pelvic floor issues and how you help women because, I feel this is one of those taboo topics not really talked about, as is so much of women's health. And it's so frustrating because, I don't. I mean, someone very close to me had postpartum this year with their second baby, and it's really amazing how much it affects them, the family, everyone around them. And so, when you're going through that, you have a newborn. I mean, probably the last thing on your mind is the health of your pelvic floor, right? But then at some point it becomes important. So, like, when do women usually come to you, or at what stage are you able to start working with them?
Yeah, so I actually recommend that women see a pelvic floor physical therapist at least once when they're pregnant and at least
That's
once
smart.
after they've had their baby at about 6 weeks postpartum is usually a good time for a check-in. And even if women don't think that they have issues, they should still be seen by a pelvic floor physical therapist. And I say that from personal experience as well as having treated hundreds of women, some of which come in thinking they have nothing going on. And we find some things that they're able to address, which, could have become something more had it not been addressed. But I didn't find out about my pelvic floor issue until I was 7 months postpartum, and I was in a training course to become, specialized in the pelvic floor. And that's when it wasn't my doctor that told me anything. It was the instructors at this course that I was taking that they were like, hey, you've got this scar tissue, you've got this, you could do that for it. And
Wow.
I was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea. And it made a lot of sense because there were some bladder issues going on that I didn't realize were issues. And, um, you know, it's a really important appointment to be able to come in and have because we also work on prioritizing, taking the time to do your breath work, taking the time to drink something and make sure you're eating and
Yeah, overall nutrition. So here's my curiosity. If someone's like, so now I'm 47, I've never had kids. Should I go see a pelvic floor expert?
it's never a bad idea. I mean, the thing
Yeah.
is, we go through our whole life, right? Not knowing much about our pelvic floor, what it even is, how it works. And I find a lot of women learn about this part of their body finally once they have a kid. And so I do treat a lot of women that have never had kids. I treat women of all ages, and it is always so beneficial. It's probably one of the most rewarding parts of my work as a pelvic floor physical therapist, being able to give women the gift of like actually understanding what's going on in their body and like, oh, that shouldn't be sore, or oh, you have good muscle strength, or you could work on that, or this is how to properly breathe, you know?
Yeah. No, I love that. And forgive me, I know the work you do is different, but I started going to the stretch lab recently because I personally hate stretching. Like, I remember being 12 and fake stretching in dance class. Like, my whole life, I have not liked stretching, but I know it's important. And, now I'm on Zoom a lot. And even though I have the sit stand desk, like, yeah, I don't have issues. So I started going to Stretch Lab and they're like, wow, you're really flexible here. Oh, you need to work on this. Like, it's crazy the things you learn about your body. And I would tell you, like, I don't have any, I always say, I'm very blessed. Thank you, God. I don't have any aches and pains. Like, I'm in good shape. But then you go and you're like, oh, this tendon's dead in my foot. Wow. Cause I wore heels for 20 years. Right. And so, like, no, I love what you're saying, like getting in touch with your body, because I do a lot of that work in my coaching and consulting, because our feelings and our body's reaction to things tells us a lot about our real reaction versus how we've been socialized to react, right? And then what you're talking about is even different because it's on the physical level. Like, I just feel our bodies are a gift we were given for this lifetime. It's like the temple we live in. And, the better we can take care of our bodies, the better we show up for everyone. So, like, I love what you do. Like, I think it would be fascinating to figure out, like, if there are problems or what you could do to work on things.
Yeah. And just having an awareness to of even like
Yeah.
how your body responds to stress and all of that is
That's
really
so
great.
cool. So, like, what does it look like? Let's talk first about that. If someone came into you for the first time, let's say I came to see you and, to get, what is it, like a pelvic floor exam, or because you're talking about breath work and stress. And, like, I love this because it sounds very holistic. So, like, what does kind of your discovery meeting look like with a new woman, or what's the work you usually do with them?
Yeah, so when women come in for an evaluation, we sit, we chat about what they have going on, their past medical history, what they may have already done for their issue, what other, providers they may have seen, any testing they may have had, and really just getting to the root of what exactly is keeping them from the thing that they want in life, right? Like whether it is to be able to run around or have sex or, you know, whatever it is, not leak urine, not have back pain. And so once we set the goals, I actually have every single one of my patients tell me specifically in their words what their goals are. Then we get into more of an assessment. And I have a pelvic floor model that I keep so
I
that I
see
can
that.
educate. Can you see it in the back there? So I bring that everywhere if I'm doing a workshop or anything. I'm like, pull out the pelvic model. It's such a complex part of the body. And I always
Yeah.
love to educate women about, these are the three layers of your pelvic floor. This is how they function, and give them a little bit more background on some of the issues that they're having and why, like how, the pelvic floor is involved with that. And we'll discuss, what the examination is going to look like. I usually take a look externally at things. I look at posture, I look at alignment, I look at, as
Yeah.
far up as the rib cage and the abdomen, really, too, because that's all part of the core and the pelvic alignment. And then we take a look if they're comfortable and only if necessary, internal assessment, which is very gentle. And it gives me an idea to see, where they might be holding tension in their pelvic floor or if things are a little too relaxed down there. And if we, I test their strength and, I always tell people, sometimes women are used to going in for gynecological exams and they're really uncomfortable. And I tell them, like, none of this is supposed to be comfortable at all. You call all of the shots and, we don't push through anything. But one thing I do emphasize to everyone is, if I am feeling anywhere internally that is sore, healthy tissue shouldn't hurt. And I think a lot of the
Yes.
times we get used to things feeling a certain way and it's like, nope, that shouldn't hurt. And that's where the breath work comes in because the aches and pains and things that we might hold in our body, and the tension that we hold in our body is really our body's way of, absorbing stress. And by connecting with our breath, we can really tap into that nervous system response that tells our body that it's actually safe. And that's usually the first step a lot of the time.
Yeah, no, I totally get that because actually trauma and different things can cause pain too, because I actually do spiritual healing work on the side. And so sometimes when we like clean things out, people are like, oh my gosh, my pain went away. Yeah, that was like something that was a trauma you were holding on to, or an emotion, or like you said, stress. And then when you remove it, actually they're shocked that they can feel in their body something happen, right? So I think that needs to be talked about more because we do live, unfortunately, in a society where it's like, here's a pill for this, here's Depends, like, right? Which, if you need that, great, but there's holistic other ways that we can get there. And for so long, it was like, oh, that's woo woo stuff. You can't do that. But, like, I mean, we are spiritual beings living in a physical body. So, like you said, like, breath is what gives us life. So, doing some breath work, I think, would be huge. And I always emphasize this because I think it's so important for women especially to be in tune with their bodies, because that's where our deepest wisdom is, our intuition, being in touch with our body, being in touch with earth. And again, like in our Western culture, these have not been emphasized like traits for a long time. So I'm sure, do you see that a lot with women that come in to visit you? And also women tend to put themselves last. Like, I mean, they're taking care of everyone else, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing in working with all the number of women that I've worked with and seeing the different responses to being able to just breathe and let go. And it can bring out a lot of different emotions in people because it can feel unsafe to actually feel that way, to actually feel that sense of letting go and release in certain parts of the body. And, it can bring up emotions, tears, all sorts of things. And we don't always take the time in our society either to slow down. And a lot of
Yeah.
the work I do is helping people, we, as a pelvic floor PT, I'm helping people have optimal bladder function, bowel function, sexual function, childbirth experiences, and things like that. But like a lot of these basic primary functions in our body really operate best when we are not in a heightened state of, overwhelm. And day to day, it's like we're up, we're getting ready for work, you're in the car, you're in traffic, you're talking to people, go, go, go. And some of the
Yeah.
most basic things are just being able to sit and connect with yourself, but also like when you sit, eat a meal slowly, have your sips of water, chew your food fully, some of the most basic things, that I teach people.
What's interesting is when you do chew your food slowly, because I've been practicing that lately, it tastes so much better. It gets
That's true.
crazy. It actually tastes better. It's kind of like when you eat clean, right? Like when I used to be super clean, I mean, to eat a blackberry or a blueberry was like amazing. Like the taste is so beautiful because your tongue isn't coated with all that other stuff, right? And you can actually taste food. And so it's not just to do it to slow down. It's like life is actually better when you do that. And, I talk a lot about feminine energy with my clients and on here. And my analogy is like, I drive a Porsche for a reason because I like to drive fast, right? But if you're like speeding down the highway, 80, 90, 100, whatever, you're not seeing anything that goes by. And I like to say that's like being in your masculine energy, right? You need to get stuff done. Well, being in your feminine is when it's like that Sunday drive and you're out in the countryside, like, oh, look at the beautiful wildflowers, look at this. And like, I just feel the world in general needs so much more of that feminine energy. So I think it's so, and I talk about that all the time. I think it's so beautiful the work you do with women, because when we can connect, and we all have feminine and masculine energy regardless, but in this life we were born women and we're choosing to be women. Like our superpower lies in our feminine energy. So being able to be in touch with that, which the slowing down lets us do. So I'm curious, I always like to wrap up talking about feminine energy, but since we're talking about it, when do you feel most feminine? Like, when do you feel your feminine energy flowing the most, Diana?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a good thought to have. I feel I feel very much in my feminine energy when I am with my son, when I'm nurturing people, I would say. I do a lot of cooking in my home. We don't eat out that much, but I am a caretaker, which can be overwhelming, right? But at at its best, that's probably when I feel a lot in my feminine energy. I feel in my feminine energy also when I'm in an empowered place. And I've never felt actually more in my feminine energy, I think, as I did once I started really knowing who I was and realizing, like, this is what I want in life. I want to help women. I want to have a business. I want all of these. I want a wonderful marriage. I want, all
Yeah.
of these things.
Yeah. No, I always tell women, you got to know what you want. Like, what you want is the intuitive direction that I feel you're supposed to be going into for your purpose. But we've been taught, oh, don't want things, right? Like, it's not okay to want things. But if your soul keeps whispering to you that you want something, that's your intuition speaking to you. So I love that. Well, I can tell you're on purpose in life because you're absolutely like glowing right now. And I don't think it's lighting, but I'm sure you've seen this working with women. When women are in their feminine energy, they glow, they're softer. Like you can just, I don't know, a lot of times in my coaching sessions, people come in and they're like, blah, 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 and I can see, I love that we're on Zoom now versus the phone because I can see throughout by the end they're like they've like relaxed, they're breathing better, they're glowing, like they've gotten back in like the present moment and their feminine energy. And I just it's a position of power, and I don't think that that's well understood. So I love that you said when you felt empowered, that's when you started feeling feminine again or more feminine. So if you had a color to your feminine energy, what color is your feminine energy?
Oh my gosh, definitely like hot pink.
Mine's magenta, like a little more purple, but like yeah, yeah, same. I like it. So you're a little fiery, huh?
Yeah. I've always been into pink, and I'm like, part of it bothers me because I'm like, I feel like I should have a more serious color, but that's just always the color I gravitate to and
Which is
makes me
interesting you
happy.
say that. Yeah, I know, but a feminine trait is playfulness. Like sensuality and playfulness, I mean, different, but just being playful is feminine, and pink is very playful, right? And also, like, bright colors make us happy. So it makes a ton of sense. I love that. All right. So I definitely want to hear more about your 8-week program. Like, who's your ideal client that you work with there? Because I think there are tons of women listening, like, wow, I didn't even know this stuff existed. I didn't even know I needed this. So we talked about the pelvic floor practice. Tell us a little bit more about your 8-week program and what happens there, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. So inside the 8-week program, women will get 24 workouts. So it comes with a
Wow.
portal that they have access to for life. And I've recorded 24 workouts, all 30 minutes long, all strength workouts. Follow along where I'm cueing. You're getting my tips for like how your posture should be, and your form and technique and everything. Because one of the things women struggle with the most is once they learn, like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing resistance training to help promote, a healthy metabolism or promote muscle and things like that. They don't actually know what to do. So it was very important for me to have a program of 3 workouts per week for the full 8 weeks for women to follow along and know what they're doing and feel confident with that. So they're getting that. And then also weekly group coaching calls. So we meet
Nice.
on Zoom weekly to really go over individually like what their goals are and where they're at in the program and what some of the struggles that are coming up that week, how we're going to tackle them going into the next week, and really get that guidance. The women that have showed up for the calls are the most successful in this program. The online portal also includes a library full of short educational videos that I've made all about the pelvic floor and properly connecting with your pelvic floor, and when to know if you should Kegel and when maybe you shouldn't Kegel, and how to address a lot of common postpartum issues like, C-section recovery, diastasis recti healing, bladder leakage. There's a whole lesson in there about gut healing and hormonal balance, and just videos too for like a warm up and stretching and how to foam roll and all sorts of great information in the portal there. And then we also have a private Facebook group too, where throughout the week, the women can ask me any questions that come up. So it's kind of like having me in your back pocket all throughout the week. And also the moms loved the group because they can communicate with each other that way and build connections that way as well, because they're working alongside other moms going through similar issues at the same time and having similar goals. So, I see women in this program as early as like maybe 12 weeks postpartum. And I've had people with, like 7-year-olds. So there's a range of postpartum that can be appropriate for this program. And I come alongside each person to really coach them at whatever level they're at and what their goals are.
Well, I love that. And I love the community you've created because, even like in my Vixen mastermind, a lot of issues that come up are balancing being a mom, balancing being a significant other, et cetera, with owning a business, right? And so everyone thinks it's all business, but a lot of it's not. It's like we women operate different in the business world and juggling things. And so one thing I love is my co-facilitator has 5 kids. Her 5th is like a sophomore in high school, right? And then plenty of women have young children. So like it's a great opportunity. Like you said, you have women who have 7-year-olds and just had a baby. And that's like a beautiful community to have mentorship, other women that get it, like not just your expertise, which I know is amazing and phenomenal, but that's been one of the beautiful things I've seen in the last year, like in my small groups and my masterminds, is like the genius that the women learn from each other, and just that, oh, I'm okay, like I'm not alone. Other women are going through this. Because I think, especially in the postpartum situation, I think a lot of it's isolation, feeling like you're alone, you can't handle it. Again, I haven't been there, but this is what I've witnessed from the outside. So this is so important. So do you always have the women sign up? Like, would it be potential? So for example, if someone has a member of their family and they can tell they're struggling with postpartum, is there a way you recommend that they could have them recommend a program or to get into something like this? Or do you think that's best left alone?
Yeah, I think it's always helpful to let people know, like, oh, hey, like pelvic floor physical therapy is something that could be really helpful. And, I was just reading or I just listened to a talk and I heard that, everyone should get checked out after they have their baby. And, maybe having, word of mouth referrals are wonderful. Oh, I know someone that goes to this clinic or that, but even just being able to talk about it. I've had a number of women come to me because either a friend or a family member has told them like, oh, they really recommended that I look into this. So I did. And that's a huge gift, when you care about someone, that they are encouraged to go and really take care of themselves.
I agree. I love it. Well, Diana, I loved having you on today. I love your energy. Like, I know you're fiery, but you're also peaceful and collected at the same time. So I hugely appreciate that. And I just love all the work you're doing when it comes to women's health and well-being. So it's really beautiful. Thank you again. If you love Diana as much as I do, follow her on Instagram. And again, we will have all of her information in the show notes. That's on our vixengathering.com webpage. And if you just subscribe, you get all the show notes, all the resources emailed directly to you each episode. So that's really the best way to get that information. And if you're listening to this on Apple and you want to recommend us, or Spotify, we are also on YouTube. So you can check out all episodes on YouTube now. So super excited. Diana, do you have on-rolling enrollment for your 8-week program? So if someone's listening and they're like, oh, I should do this, I know someone, like, where do they need to go to get on the wait list or find out when the next program is?
Yes, that's an excellent question. So, my next round will be running before this episode airs. And so, given this is May, my next round of Fit as a Mother will be open for enrollment like end of August. I'll be starting up the next round around sometime mid to late September. And they can go to my Instagram. I always have like a Fit as a Mother wait list right in the bio or an
Awesome.
application. So they can like find that right there, or they can head over to my reclaimyourstrengthpt.com website.
Perfect. So if you're listening and you think this is great for you or someone you love, go get on the wait list. Maybe we'll convince Diana to start the next round sooner. So I'm sure if demand is there. No, I'm excited. I'm definitely sharing this information with all the women I know. So thank you so much, Diana. I love it. I'm going to wrap up here. I could talk to you all day, but I know that you are busy and you've already had a full day of work. So again, I really appreciate you joining us today. But I always like to say the world needs more love. So if you're listening, how are you going to show up in love today? And we're really talking about love for ourselves and love for our bodies in this episode. So, today just really think, what are like 1, 2, or 3 ways that I could love myself a little bit better? And let's make a commitment, even if it's small things, to do that. Because when we love ourselves more, we have so much more to give to everyone else in the world by being ourselves. So, Diana, as we part, do you have a message you'd like to share with our audience?
I would say yes. It starts with loving yourself first and take care of yourself and your basic needs and be well.
Oh, thank you so much. Awesome. Well, I've loved having you today. I hope that you have a wonderful evening. And I can't wait to talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, April. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a great day. Show up in love. Take care of yourself, like Diana said. And I can't wait to talk to you soon. Have a great day.